We all know by now that the Swarm Disaster is the hardest content in Honkai Star Rail right now, and since I did pull Fu Xuan, I was able to do some testing with her in the Swarm Disaster, so today I want to look at how well she does in that game mode for people who either pulled for her, or, if people are thinking about still pulling for Fu Xuan. So just to quickly go over the team I used, as well as, what difficulty and whatnot that I tested it on. So the team I used for testing has been my main Fu Xuan team since I got her, being Fu Xuan, Silverwolf, Seela, and Bronya. And I did my testing on difficulty 4, and I also don't have too many of the, commuting trail buffs, done. So I don't have as many buffs as, some other people may have been having, because I haven't been going too hard on farming the Swarm Disaster, and I also haven't beaten difficulty 4 yet either. So that's why I stuck to difficulty 4, and also didn't have too many of those extra boosts for the commuting trail and whatnot. So to go into how Fu Xuan performed, starting with the positives, I do think that Fu Xuan's sustain in my testing was definitely very strong. I was able to stay alive for a good amount of things. She also did especially well against the phase 2 bosses, especially when I was fighting a boss that had the quantum weakness. Mainly being the deer, which can be a little troublesome, especially with the third phase. But then also she did very well against Cocolia, and depending on what you're fighting, or if you're fighting a boss that doesn't have the weaknesses for the team, for the team I'm using especially, it could be definitely more challenging. And since, Fu Xuan is very versatile as to what you can run for her, she is definitely going to, work on a lot of team comps, so you can, kind of choose whatever is best for your account, and then have her just, sustain them as much as possible. And also, I do just think that, with her being Quantum, she also does very well against the final boss. Although his damage is absolutely ridiculous, so you definitely do want to have some good buffs from, Curios, Blessings, all that stuff, as well as just having your Fu Xuan built up a good amount. And, that ultimately ends up being pretty solid, to use her. But then, really, the only negative that I'll bring up for Fu Xuan in this is, it really just... you really just need to make sure that you have that Matrix of Prescience up at all times. If you misplay and it goes down, or if you don't have enough skill points when her turn comes around right before it's going to go off, that could basically spell your defeat. I've had some runs also, both in Swarm Disaster and Memory of Chaos, where I wasn't fully paying attention to the Matrix of Prescience, and I didn't put it back up right away, and that has definitely either almost cost me runs, if not fully cost me runs. So having that matrix up for the damage reduction, as well as the reproportioning damage, and also the crit rate boost, is very strong. And not having that is going to really just negatively impact you a lot. So if you are using Fu Xuan, no matter what you're using her in, make sure you have that Matrix of Prescience up as much as possible. And against those elite enemies and bosses, take advantage of being able to use her technique right before them pretty easily. So you can get the Matrix of Prescience up at the start of battle, rather than having to wait. Because, one of the main issues with my Fu Xuan, well, I mean, not really issues, but it gets annoying in some situations, is that she does not have any, speed, really, on the pieces I have for her. I still need to farm some more, for sure, but she is rather slow, so sometimes enemies do outspeed, so the beginnings of fights could be a little rough in that regard if I don't use her technique beforehand. But, overall, for Fu Xuan, I think in terms of team building, you definitely can run, a healer or another sustain if you feel like you need even more survival. But I do think that if your Fu Xuan is well built enough, as long as you have, a very, good DPS character, you have some good supports, and then, keeping them sustained with Fu Xuan, you are going to do very well in the Swarm Disaster, as long as you have, the right buffs and all that kind of stuff, and have just, made progress with that, because it definitely is hard for a lot of players without those buffs. But yeah, let me know in the comments down below what your experience with Swarm Disaster is. I still do want to try to make a guide for it at some point, but I do need to grind it up a good amount more before I feel comfortable talking about it, because I do want to have as much info as possible from my own experience as well. But yeah, if you enjoyed the video, Definitely be sure to leave a like, comment, subscribe to the channel, and ring that notification bell. But with that, I will see you all next time.